At this year's Los Angeles Comic Con, we'll join our guest host Julliet Pan as she talks to the special effects master Todd Tucker. With 3 Oscar awards behind him, he's one of the leading figures in Hollywood visual effects. Let's join Julliet to find out more.
Panaroma in Hollywood. I'm Julliet Pan.
We have one of the greatest behind-the-camera special effects wizards.
He's a genius. 2 seconds, start.
We say good morning to Todd Tucker.
Todd Tucker, so nice to have you here to talk to the ICI's channel Shanghai.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
I understand that you have over 100 movie and TV credits as a special effects makeup artist.
Yeah.
Tell me one most memorable film.
I worked on a film years and years ago when I was an artist at another company with Robin Williams called Mrs. Doubtfire. Worked on that. I was a huge fan of Robin Williams, so working with him was just amazing. It was just one of those movies that I think touched a lot of people, so that was really cool for me to be part of that.
He was always curious to know about places he'd never been to. He was all right.
I love that movie too. Really, I watched it many times.
Yeah.
Tell me, how's it like when you work with him? What kind of person he is, and how does he zone into his character?
Well, I idolized Robin Williams as a kid. He was like one of the main things that I, would watch, and I saw him in concert when I was like 10. He was like the thing for me. So when I first moved to Los Angeles in 1990 and started working, the first film I worked on was Hook, and he was in Hook, and he came into the studio and I couldn't even speak. I didn't even know what to say. I was so nervous. And then I worked with him again on Mrs. Doubtfire, and by that time I'd been working a little bit and was a little bit more used to the industry, and got a chance to talk to him and interact with him. And Robin is just an amazing person, just a really, really sweetheart.
Without a mommy. Yeah, Dad, let's go. You can't hurt us anymore.
You've worked on Transformers, The Night at the Museum, and Pirates of the Caribbean. Those are very, very well known amongst the Chinese audience. So tell us more about your experience on set.
Wow. It's different for every show. It depends on what we're doing for the show. Sometimes, like for example, when we did the Smurf movies, we did Hank Azaria as Gargamel. We did the prosthetic makeups on Hank. And for that, I would come in the morning, I'd do a 2-hour makeup on Hank. I would maintain him throughout the day for 14, 15 hours, and then take him out at the end of the night, which would take another half hour, 45 minutes. So for that kind of a show, you're the first person there in the morning because the actors have to be in makeup when everybody shows up to start working. And you're the last person to leave because you have to take the makeup off after everybody is gone. And I also did a lot of creature acting on shows like Charmed and a few feature films where I would play the creature. So that time I would come in, I would have all the makeup put on me, and then usually sit around for 4 or 5 hours waiting for them to use me, and then finally they would use me as one of the creatures. I'd do my scene and then they'd take me out. But you could be sitting in a creature suit, I think the longest time I was in a suit was for 22 hours. When you're acting in a creature suit, because it's a lot of times uncomfortable, you have to really zone into your character and kind of put up with it, and a lot of times let it work for you. A lot of actors come in when we do makeups, and I tell them when we put the makeup on, I leave the makeup room and I let them just look in the mirror and try different facial expressions and see what the makeup does and discover the makeup. And afterwards they always tell me, thank you for doing that, because I saw stuff that I would have never seen otherwise. So now my performance, I know how to help. And I know a lot of the actors I've worked with are the same way. When I put them in a makeup, they are that character until I take that makeup off. Out of all the actors I've worked with, one of Robin was hands down amazing. I got to work with Jim Carrey on The Mask.
Oh.
And the interesting thing about that was that was before he was famous. So when I met him, he was really, really cool. I haven't seen him since or met him since, but it was interesting to meet him back at the point before he was really famous to kind of be able to see what he was like then. And he was very cool. I worked with Brad on The Curious Case of Benjamin Buttons. Brad was really cool, and you know that's somebody that literally has an e-ticket to not be a nice guy because he's one of the most famous, good-looking, studly guys in the world. So that's a guy that should have an ego, and I'm sure he does, but it seemed like it was very much in check, and he was a really nice guy. He showed up on a motorcycle every day when he would come in for makeup tests, and he'd talk to everybody, and he was really, really cool. When I worked on Tom Cruise, we did a film called Collateral where there's a scene where he gets his ear shot and we had to make a fake ear for him to look like it had been cut through with the bullet. And it was kind of funny because I was walking towards the trailer where Tom was the first time I met him, and he was in the trailer with Michael Mann, the director. And I had 2 or 3 people coming up to me going, "Don't look him in the eye, don't have conversation, just find out what they need and then get out of there quick." And I'm like, get away, back off. I've done this before. I don't need to be, coached on how to interact with a celebrity. And I went in there and they were sitting down, and I just said, "Hey guys, how you doing? I'm Todd. This is what I'm gonna do. It'll be this, this, and this." I just explained it very calmly and quietly, and we had a conversation, and they were both very nice. And Tom is a professional. The guy he's a great actor. He's a really professional guy, and it was fine. It was a pleasure.
I'm a cool guy. With a job I contracted to do.
Who's the hardest director to work with?
Michael Bay was very demanding on Transformers, but he makes good movies.
From our earlier conversation, I understand that you are one of those few people that have very good work-life balance. Tell us more about how you switch hats.
It's very important not to take your work home with you. When you're working, in the entertainment industry, where you have these really long hours and a lot of stuff going on all the time. For me, it worked the best to just kind of cut it off. And when I go home, my kids and wife don't care about any of this stuff. They don't care if, what I'm doing. It's not really important to them. And I don't want them to get involved in any of this because it's very crazy, and I'd much rather, just keep it 2 worlds basically.
You're
have the business world and then go home and keep them very separate.
Have you ever faced your biggest failure?
Becoming my own owner of my own company was a huge step for me, and I did question whether or not, that was the right move. So at that point, I was wondering if I was making, a big mistake, because everything was on the line at that point. And now here we are 5 years later, and it was the best thing I could have ever done.
We have to assume that there's no one we can trust.
There is one man. General.
Call me Joe.
What's your biggest fear?
What's my biggest fear? Unemployment. If you're an artist, you have to be a business person because you have to promote yourself, you have to understand how to get jobs, you have to understand how to keep jobs and get people to come back to you. There's a lot of involved there, and I think a lot of artists struggle with being able to balance the business part of the industry. You have to be very smart, you have to be courageous enough to go out there, and you have to be very thick-skinned. Stay motivated, don't let people get you down, don't let things that happen get you down. Just always constantly keep going forward, and that's kind of what I've lived my life by.
I love the word being motivated, and now I learned a new word to be thick-skinned. Your studio to borrow some because you
got some thick skin in the back. I'll just glue it right on you and you'll be set.
I need it.
Insta thick skin. You don't have to go through bad times or experiences or nothing. I'll just give you thick skin.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Have you been to China?
I've never been to China. I would love to go to China.
Have you ever tried a Chinese dumpling?
I haven't.
You have to come to China, and I will definitely make you eat Chinese dumpling.
Deal. That's a deal.
You follow me to say some Chinese words.
Uh-oh, here we go. All right. Here's a real test. Okay.
你好，中国.
Ni hao, Jianggu. Ni hao, Jianggu. I'm coming.
Thank you so much, Todd.
You got it.
Thank
Very
you.
well.
Appreciate it.
One dish a day definitely makes a difference.
From explosive exhibitions, with fireworks bringing his art to life, to new and exciting takes on contemporary art. Tsai Guoqiang is one of China's most well-known contemporary artists, both here in the country and overseas. Today we'll check out his latest solo exhibition, Peasant Da Vinci, celebrating 5 years of the project, currently on display at the National Museum of Science and Technology in Milan. Peasant Da Vinci features around 50 handcrafted machines, invented by Chinese villagers. From 2004 to 2010, Tsai Guoqiang traveled across 9 different provinces in China, collecting his unique artifacts and interviewing inventors in rural areas. The innovations themselves became the foundation for the exhibition, coming together as a massive installation. It presented a surprising approach to architecture and design. A 20-meter-high aircraft carrier stands upright in the garden, as submarines, aircraft, and flying saucers circle around it in a playful way.
对于农民大分歧来说，你一直都带着很多的问题来做这个展，你会问为什么要创作，为什么要发明，为什么要做艺术？那你觉得你有没有找到答案？
没有啦，它是一个永恒的问题，某种意义上反映了我们很特殊的时期，一批边远农村的农民们，他们主张个人价值，然后寻求个人梦想，发出他的声音，书写他的故事，跟这一次在米兰文艺复兴的精神很一致。
那你是怎么挖掘这些农民艺术家的呢？
这个是已经很多年前了，因为最早我是看到了网络有报道造潜艇的农民，我就一看就感到那个潜艇本身就像一个作品，是一个艺术的造型，这个是有想象力的，所以从那边开始，最后收藏了60几个。
那在农民达芬奇当中，你有没有看到自己的影子？
那当然了，首先我就是一个好玩的孩子，其实做这事情都要好玩。另外，我又是一个有好奇心的孩子，仰望星空啊，思考那种看不见的世界，让自己插上翅膀。
The exhibition first appeared in 2010 for the opening of the Rockbund Art Museum. The chosen slogan was, "Never learn how to land, and what is important isn't whether you can fly." In 2013, in Brazil, the exhibition attracted over 1 million visitors. And then this spring, it went on display in Japan.
那农民达芬奇其实是从2010年的上海世博会开始的，从上海出发，然后一路到了巴西、东京，然后现在到了米兰。其实它机缘巧合当中跟世博都有很紧密的联系。那每个国家来看展的人，他们的回馈一样吗？
不大一样，因为上海世博会有一个主题叫“城市让生活更美好”，它谈的是城市。可是我又说出了一个“农民让城市更美好”，是因为农民创造了这一个现代化的城市，所以他作为一个弱势群体的命运和他们身上的那一种勇气，在我们上海展的时候比较突出。那么到巴西，因为巴西某种意义上跟我们有接近的地方。但是更感人的是，我感到了大量的普通民众对这种人的梦想，很感动所以才会连在监狱里面的犯人，他们都做这个主题的作品，参加这个活动。他们不能出来看展览，他们都被打动了。那到了日本，它更多的是从那种互动上的好玩，所以很多孩子都整天在那边玩这个互动，高科技带来的乐趣。那到了米兰，它主要还是会回归到科学和艺术的关系是什么？因为农民们在做这些作品的时候，并没有想到他们是在做艺术，他们想的是科技的。 那么我是一个艺术家，我又把这些科技发明物做成了艺术品、艺术装置，通过我用艺术来讲述一个故事出来了。这样的话，意大利人能感受到达芬奇这种精神。达芬奇的精神就是既是科学的，又是艺术的。
那其实这次在米兰有很多的点啊，一个点呢是，你是唯一一位在世的艺术家被邀请到这个展馆里面做展的。那第二个呢，就是这个展馆其实收藏达芬奇作品最多的一个展览馆。那你在布展的时候有没有做特别的考量？
没有啦，因为我在世界上大量的美术馆个展啊，什么展啊，都是最年轻的在世的啊，然后第一次外国人参加啦，或者是中国人第一次在这边展览呢，因为刚好处在一个时期很好的时候，不是我有了多么好的才能啦，是因为这个时代我走到那个面前，刚好门就打开。
那这次展览最大的挑战，你觉得是什么？
最大的挑战还是时间准备短，另外一个就是意大利的那个场地，它是一个古罗马的遗址，所以地面有很多地方你也不能碰，他们的植物啊都是有很多法律要求的。
那这次的展览是要到明年的1月份才结束，你有没有什么特别的期待吗？
那个期待是靠他们当地人自己来运营它。我总是讲了一个故事的开头，然后交给他们自己写他们自己的故事下去。
Through the exhibition, Tsai Guocheng teaches us it isn't important how high we fly, but rather that one can become the engineer of life, as long as we embrace innovation, creativity, and original thinking.
Now let's see what else is happening in Shanghai and beyond.
The Porsche Empowering the Future Young Artists exhibition was recently held during the 2015 Art 021 Shanghai Contemporary Art Fair. Over the past 6 years, students at the Sichuan Fine Arts Institute created over 1,000 pieces for the Empowering the Future art contest. This time, 27 of them were selected and presented here in Shanghai. Featuring the lives of real children in rural areas of China, the work showcased their positive energy towards life, as well as their longing for a better life. It also highlighted social problems that school dropouts face, as well as issues of missing children and left behind children. The project will continue in order to draw more attention to underprivileged children and support young artists.
Well, that's all the time we have for today's show, but join us tomorrow for all the latest in art, culture, fashion, lifestyle, and entertainment from across Shanghai. And always remember to scan our QR code and check our official WeChat for all your City Beat updates. I'm your host, Lisa Zhou. Bye for now.
大家好，我是导演田雨生。
Pulling in over 100 million RMB in just 3 days, we talked to director Tian Yushen about his new film, X-Files 2.
流传千年的绝世珍藏，有缘千里来相见。灵动飞扬的摩登佳品，惊喜流连，时空穿梭，交汇于一瞬。我们与你分享时光长河里的点滴美好。I'm 爱新觉罗贝 ，Welcome to Mad Collections。